Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel, where today we're diving deep into the world of solo leveling Arise. And you know what? Shadows are the secret sauce that makes your team of hunters absolutely unstoppable. These shadow soldiers aren't just for show, they bring some serious power, buffs, and unique abilities to the table. But here's the catch. You're only allowed 3 shadows on your team at a time, and with new ones popping up all the time, it can be a real headache figuring out which ones are worth your time. But don't worry, that's where this tier list comes in handy. We've ranked all the shadows in solo leveling, Arise from the absolute game changers to those that are, well, let's just say they're better left in the shadows. Stick around as we break down each shadow's strengths, weaknesses, and why they landed in their respective spots on our list. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which shadows to bring into battle and which to bench. Let's get started. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking shadow soldiers in solo leveling Arise. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The shadow soldiers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Iron and Tank. Alright, let's dive deeper into the world of solo leveling Arise and talk about some of the C tier shadows, shall we? Today we're focusing on Iron and Tank 2 shadows that, let's be honest, are more like background characters than stars of the show. They have their moments, sure, but for the most part, they're the bench warmers of the shadow team. So why exactly are these two stuck in the C tier? Let's find out. First up, we have Iron. Now, Iron is a tanky shadow, which sounds good on paper, right? But here's the catch. His main gimmick is decreasing the enemy's DEF by 12% for just 5 seconds. I mean, 5 seconds? That's barely enough time to blink in a heated battle. And unless you're running a very specific, health-focused team, you probably won't feel his impact much. It's like bringing a water gun to a firefight. Fun for a bit, but not really practical. But let's not throw Iron under the bus entirely. He does have his niche uses. When you have a team of health scaling hunters like Min Byung-gu, who's hands down the best support in the game, or heavy hitters like Seo Jiwoo and silver main back Yoonho, then Iron can actually shine a bit brighter. His ability to boost the team's max HP by 6% through his Shadow's Authority effect becomes pretty valuable in these scenarios. So, if your team is all about that life, then Iron can actually be a solid pick. But if you're running a more damage-focused lineup, well, let's just say there are better choices out there. Now, let's talk about Tank. And oh boy, where do we even start with Tank? This poor guy is the least favored shadow in solo leveling Arise for a reason. His claim to fame? A 1-second stun and a tiny bump to the team's DEF. Yeah, you heard that right, 1 second and a tiny defense buff. If you're thinking, that doesn't sound very game-changing, you're absolutely right. In a game where every second counts, Tank's 1-second stun feels more like a polite interruption than an actual strategy, and it doesn't get much better from there. Tank's Shadow Authority ability boosts defense, but here's the kicker, defense isn't exactly the star stat in solo leveling Arise. Since launch, we've seen time and time again that focusing on attack power is the way to go. So, when the other shadows are busy boosting your attack, crit damage, or max HP, Tank is just standing there, looking a little confused, offering you a bit more defense. And honestly, it's like bringing a shield to a sword fight, sometimes helpful, but not if you want to actually win. In conclusion, while Iron and Tank do have their moments, they're more like that backup pair of sneakers you keep in your closet. Useful in specific situations, but not your first choice for game day. So, unless you're running a very niche health-based team or just having fun experimenting, there are better shadows to prioritize in solo leveling Arise. Keep them in mind, but maybe don't count on them to carry you to victory. The shadow soldiers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Blades and Serbi. Alright, let's dive into the world of solo leveling Arise and talk about some of those B-tier shadow soldiers that could still pack a punch in your lineup. First up, we've got Blades, a fantastic choice for beginners. Now, I know what you're thinking, why bother with a B-tier soldier? But hear me out. Blades brings a straightforward 80k buff that can really boost your team's overall power, especially in those early stages of the game. You see, Blades is like that trusty old sidekick, reliable, easy to use, and gets the job done when you're just starting out. However, as you progress and start unlocking more powerful shadows, Blades might start feeling like that old phone you've had for too long. Still works, but it's just not keeping up with the newer models. The main issue? Blades lacks the more impactful, game-changing skills that some of the higher tier shadows have. But here's the kicker, Blades is actually the second best shadow soldier you can get in Arise before you level up your heavy hitters like Igris. So, if you're saving up your traces of shadow, unlocking Blades could be a smart move early on. Why? Because of its Shadow's Authority team buff. When activated, this nifty buff increases all your team members' attack by 5%. Sure, that may not sound like much, but if you're still in the early game, trust me, this boost can significantly pump up your team's overall DPS output. Plus, since you can only activate one Shadow Authority effect at a time, picking Blades as your captain can prove pretty handy when you're just starting out. Now, let's talk about Serbi, a shadow soldier that recently joined the game's roster and is already making a name for itself as a great backup. Serbi has this unique skill called Combustion that's pretty cool. It deals 50% of the user's damage to the enemy every 3 seconds, and it doesn't stop there. The skill also increases the enemy's damage taken by 5% until the end of the match. So, think of Serbi like that quiet kid in the back who suddenly turns out to be a total game changer when given the chance. Sure, Serbi might not be the MVP of your lineup like Igris or Tusk, but it's got some solid utility to offer. Its Shadow Authority can increase all team members' critical hit damage by 4%, which is a nice little bonus. However, here's where it gets a bit tricky. Critical hit damage isn't that impressive unless you've got a decent critical hit rate to back it up. So, in most cases, you might find the Shadow Authority buff that Igris provides more useful for your team. But don't sleep on Serbi just yet. That Combustion effect is a total wildcard. It's dealing damage every few seconds and increasing the damage taken by enemies, which can add up quickly over time. And guess what? The duration is infinite when activated. That's right, once you get this effect going, it just keeps on burning. So, if you're looking to spice up your team comp a bit, Serbi can bring some interesting dynamics to your battles. So, there you have it. 2 B-tier shadows that may not be top-tier material, but they got their own unique strengths that can be a lot of fun to play around with. Whether you're looking for a solid starting choice like Blades or a sneaky surprise like Serbi, these shadows can still help you carve your way to victory in solo leveling Arise. Keep experimenting, and you might just find the perfect fit for your playstyle. The shadow soldiers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Tusk. Alright, let's dive deeper into Tusk, one of the A-tier shadow soldiers in solo leveling, Arise. If you're running a team centered around heavy core 80k damage dealers like Alicia Blanche, Tusk is your go-to guy. Think of him as the secret sauce that makes your offense unbeatable. His authority skill grants a base core 80k damage buff, which means characters like Alicia suddenly become a wrecking ball of damage. In those nail-biting, high-stakes encounters, that extra oomph can make all the difference. But what really sets Tusk apart is his unique skill, Shadow's Authority, which cranks up all your team members' core attack damage by a whopping 20%. That's right, 20%. Instantly, he becomes one of the top shadow soldiers to have on your squad. Sure, he's a bit like Blades in terms of providing buffs, but Tusk is laser focused on boosting core attack damage, which can limit your overall DPS potential. Still, for a team that thrives on powerful strikes, Tusk's buff is like rocket fuel. Now, don't get me wrong, his skills are solid, they hit decently hard, but there's no flashy flair or wild effects here. They're pretty standard in the grand scheme of things, which might feel a bit underwhelming next to some of the more extravagant shadow soldiers out there. But hey, if you're looking for a reliable, no-nonsense team player who can beef up your core damage and turn the tide of battle, Tusk is a shadow soldier you'll want in your corner. The shadow soldiers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Igris. So, let's talk about the absolute king of shadow soldiers in solo leveling, Arise, Igris. If you've been grinding through the game and wondering which shadow soldier deserves a permanent spot on your team, let me tell you, Igris is your guy. He's the first shadow you unlock, and trust me, he's sticking around for the long haul. This guy brings a killer combo to the table with his authority skill, boosting the critical hit rate for your entire team by a solid 4%. Imagine how handy that is when you're up against those tough bosses. Every hunter in your lineup is gonna love this, except maybe Choi Jong-in. But he's just doing his own thing, right? Now, if you're thinking, okay, he boosts critical hit rate, but what about damage? Oh, Igris has you covered there too. Not only does he dish out some seriously high DPS, but his Earth/Slash skill adds a bleed effect to enemies, dealing extra damage equal to 0.6% of his health every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. That's a lot of pain over time. It's like having a free ticket to watch your enemies slowly suffer while you kick back and enjoy the show. Combine that with his personal ATK buff that doubles his damage output, and you've got a Shadow Soldier who is absolutely indispensable. Honestly, it's no surprise that Igris is the only S-tier Shadow Soldier in Arise, not just because he's a fan favorite from the original series, but also because he's an absolute beast in the game. I mean, come on, he used to be a gate boss. If you want a Shadow Soldier who can handle any challenge and keep your squad at the top of its game, Igris is your guy. So don't waste your time experimenting with the rest. Put your faith in Igris and you'll be dominating in no time. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.